What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Gimli. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, a couple of times I've come to Lake Winnipeg and I've always kind of complained about the access to the lake. It's very difficult to get out deep enough, especially last year. In one of my videos, one of my viewers actually commented to me and said, "But Vernon, why don't you go to Gimli?" And that is why I always ask you guys for advice, because believe it or not, I didn't know about the ice village here at Gimli. I think there are actually quite a lot of people that know about the ice fishing out here, but don't necessarily know about what's happening here in Gimli. The town actually scrapes away some of the snow and ice, making little ice roads, giving you access to the lake to go and do some fishing. And maybe you forgot your baits. Don't worry, Gimli's got you covered. There's a few bait and tackle shops. Or maybe you want a nice hot meal when it's nice and cold out. They got some restaurants and stuff. So there's actually quite a lot that Gimli offers for the ice fishing season. Now at the end of this video, I kind of want to do a pros versus cons list to see whether it's worth your time to get out here to Gimli. But before we can do that, we need to get out on the ice and do some fishing. Now the access for this particular spot is actually on Goldfield Road. So let's get out there and find a fishing spot. We have some movement on this rod. Let's see. Got something on. There we go. Oh, he came loose. Little jumbo yellow perch. Didn't actually get to pull him. Probably didn't get a good hook set on him. Only seen one fish go past. That was actually the first bite we had. This is now in something like 2.5 hours worth of fishing. So I'm just gonna rebait, set it back down there. Alright, so it's actually cold enough for my little microphone to sometimes not work, so that was why there was terrible sound for that little clip. But what happened is we finally got a fish. That was a yellow perch, quite a chunky little guy. Didn't get to land him, the hook came loose and he swam back down. But that was actually the first fish for today, even though we didn't get to land him actually properly. I've only seen one fish swim past. Not quite sure what it was. It was a long slender fish, and after 2.5 hours that is actually the first fish we got. Now hopefully that means that the fishing will be picking up and that I didn't just waste my only time to get a fish out there today. But I'm just setting the baits back down there, gonna keep on jigging the little lures. Let's see if anything else shows up. Alright guys, it is 1:30. That means I've been trying out there now for a couple of hours. The spot that I was fishing in, that is somewhere between 12 to 15 feet worth of water. Typically that will be the sweet spot where you're trying finding the fish. But having spent a couple of hours out there, I'm not convinced that that is where the fish are at the moment. Now my options are to move out deeper onto Lake Winnipeg or try something a bit different. I'm actually closer to the harbor. When looking at the depth of this lake, there are certain points where you will find deeper water and certain spots that are rather shallow. Next to the harbor is kind of deep, but there is a particular point running out and I'm trying to fish on that point. Maybe the fish aren't cruising around on the flats, they're sitting on this point. That is why I want to try in this spot for a while. Because of the nice sunny weather, I'm not going to put up the shelter. Going to give it a couple of hours of trying out here. We'll see if we get anything. So this particular spot that I'm fishing in at the moment, it's something like 2 to 2.7 meters worth of water and a meter's worth of ice. So even though in the summertime this might be 3 or 4 meters deep, at the moment it is rather shallow. I was hoping maybe some pike or something would be up here in the shallows. But after a couple of hours of fishing, nothing out there so far. Now at the beginning of this video I said that I want to give some pros and cons to this particular spot, and considering the day I've had out there, I have come to the conclusion that maybe one man's pro might be another man's con. So rather than giving you a bunch of pros and cons that I think, I would rather just tell you what I experienced, what happened out there today, and you can decide for yourself whether it's good or bad. Now firstly, this was probably the easiest way for me to get out on the ice. If you don't have an off-road vehicle or something with 4x4, something with snow capabilities, it can be difficult to get out on Lake Winnipeg, whereas here at Gimli it's rather easy. Now that being said, it is rather popular, rather busy. Now some people might see that as a good thing, some as a bad thing. If it's your first time ice fishing, maybe having some people around you, if something goes wrong, there's someone to help you. Maybe it's not a bad idea to have a bunch of people around. Now of course you don't need to stay on the road, you can of course drive out there, but be very careful. This snow might look safe, but it's easy to break through. Still a rather deep layer of snow out there. And as far as the fishing is concerned, I felt like I've been sitting around the entire day waiting for fish. Yes, I've been jigging some lures quite a lot, trying to draw in fish, but with the little underwater camera I can see that there's not a lot going on down there. Throughout the entire day I've maybe seen 2 or 3 fish. Yes, I messed up catching that little yellow perch. That would have been my biggest yellow perch so far. That was a rather impressive little perch. But the fishing out here felt rather slow today. It might just be with the waning moon or some cooler temperatures or something. Or maybe the fish are just out and deeper than I thought. Whatever the reason, it seemed very slow out there today. Even talking to some of the other people around, not a lot of fish being caught out there today. But all in all, I still had a pretty good time. Even just the drive out here to Gimli, there's something magical about driving in the perfect winter conditions. And it was a beautiful day out there today, with very little wind. Now there is one more thing I like to point out. There is a television program called Ice Vikings. That is actually a program about some commercial fishing here on Lake Winnipeg, especially here from Gimli. Now the vast majority of commercial fishing happens to the north, not necessarily around here, but a lot of these guys actually do set their nets out here. And I think that might be part of the problem. That's why it feels devoid of fish. These nets kind of block the fish from going into certain areas. It felt like I had to sit and wait for the fish to find my baits rather than drawing in fish. It seemed random whether there's fish in the area or not. And to me, that is something I think those commercial fishing nets might keep out fish in a large area. But I base that on simply what I've seen further south, closer to the mouth where the Red River runs in. You just see more fish and it feels more lively. Of course, the weather can also have an effect. Maybe it was just a bad day out there, I don't know. But it's a great place to get out on the ice. Just maybe be sure to spend a lot of time out here and find out where the fish are and what they want. Now that being said, not getting any bites out here in the shallow waters. I either need to move out into the deeper waters again or wait for the sun to get lower. Maybe the fish will get active when it's dark again. But I had my fun out there, and I will of course have other chances to fish out here. So I think for that reason, that's where I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you guys for following along on this one. If you're new here, consider hitting subscribe, joining my community. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments and give me some hints and tips down there. You'll be surprised how much I learned from my viewers. And please to give me a little thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. But like I said, thank you for tagging along. And like always, I'll see you next time.